Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to daily news analysis of Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 24th of May 2024. Displayed here are the articles that we are going to discuss today. So before we start, I have two important announcements to make. Attention aspirants. Shankar IAS Academy is thrilled to announce a series of free All India mock tests for the upcoming 2024 Prelims. Take advantage of this opportunity to gauge your preparation and improve your performance. The first test is scheduled on May 26th. Don't miss out. Register now using the barcode or click the link in the description. Next, Shankar IAS Academy is conducting a state-level mock test for the TNPSC Group 4 exam. This offline test will be held on June 1st across 16 centers in Tamil Nadu. Don't miss this chance to assess your preparation and boost your confidence. Now, without much delay, let us get into the first news article discussion. So first, we shall solve few previous year questions. Look at this question. Which of the following have occurred in India after its liberalization of economic policies in 1991? Share of agriculture in GDP increased enormously. Share of India's exports in world trade increased. FDI inflows increased. India's foreign exchange reserves increased enormously. Before answering this question, firstly let us see the concept of liberalization. See, liberalization is the process or means of elimination of state control over the economic activities. It removes governmental involvement and gives commercial firms more autonomy in decision making. Moreover, this process will decrease the governmental interference and boost the independence of private businesses. It also means removing governmental restrictions on economic or social policies that were previously put in place. Although there were unsuccessful efforts in 1966 and 1980, India's liberalization project ultimately took off in 1991. One of the key elements in country's growth is liberalization. India's liberalization was facilitated by improvements in the banking sector, the tax code, the foreign currency market, and the deregulation of the industrial sector. So with these basics on liberalization, now let us analyze the veracity of each statements. Look at the first statement. See, the contribution of India's agricultural sector has gradually reduced since LPG reforms started. So agriculture, India's traditional occupation, now accounts for about 15% of GDP, down from 29% in 1991. So the first statement is incorrect. Look at the second statement. During the reform period, India achieved phenomenal growth in the service sector. Know that it is known for its successful export of IT software, auto parts, textiles, and engineering goods. Hence, the second statement is correct. Look at the third statement. We know that India is one of the largest recipient of world's flow of FDI. Know that LPG reforms has resulted in 150% increase in foreign direct investment FDI and foreign exchange reserves by 20 times. Moreover, foreign investment, which includes both direct and indirect investment, has increased substantially from approximately $100 million in 1990-91 to approximately $150 billion in 2003-4. Hence, the statements 3 and 4 are correct. So here the correct answer is option B, 2, 3 and 4 only. Next question. Consider the following statements. India has ratified the Trade Facilitation Agreement TFA of WTO. See, this statement is correct. India had agreed to sign TFA by July 31st of 2014. This aims at easing customs procedures to boost commerce. Next statement. TFA is a part of WTO's Bali Ministerial Package of 2013. This statement is also correct. Trade Facilitation Agreement TFA was one among 10 agreements of WTO members had agreed upon in December 2013 Bali Ministerial meeting. Next statement. TFA came into force in January 2016. See, this statement is incorrect because it came into force in February 2017 after the ratification of 2/3 of members of the WTO. So here the correct answer is option A, 1 and 2 only. So in this backdrop, let us revise a few facts about TFA. See, the main aim of this agreement was to boost global growth by reducing the cost of the transactions in terms of import and export. It also seeks to speed up global trade by reforming custom procedures and cutting red tape. This is done by simplifying the border management programs and bring down trade barriers. It is a legally managed agreement and is considered to be one of the biggest reforms taken up by the World Trade Organization since its establishment. Another aim of this agreement was to make an easy and transparent movement of goods across national boundaries. The TFA intends to create a less discriminatory business environment by speeding up clearance procedures and formalities. For example, it mandated reduction in cargo release time. The products needs to be imported within 3 days in case of sea cargo and within 2 days of air cargo. For export, the target has been set as 2 days for sea cargo and the same day for air cargo. Apart from this, traditionally, developed countries have protected their agricultural markets using import quotas and high tariffs. Here, hard import quotas are strict limits on the quantity of specific agricultural product that can be imported into a country. Once the quota is reached, no additional imports of that product are allowed. These quotas are highly restrictive and can severely limit market access for exporters from other countries, particularly those in developing nations. This system was changed to tariff rate quota system, that is TRQ. TRQs are two-tiered systems where a certain quota is exceeded, additional imports can still enter the market but are subject to high tariffs. So to sum it up, the trade facilitation agreement is designed to make international trade faster, cheaper and more predictable, benefiting businesses of all sizes and contributing to global economic growth and development. Its focus on simplification, transparency and technical assistance ensures that even the least developed countries can effectively participate in and benefit from global trade. So this is all about the discussion. With this, let us move on to the next news article. Next, look at this article. China has launched large-scale military drills around Taiwan following the inauguration speech of Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te. In his speech, he emphasized on the independence of Taiwan. The drills involving naval vessels and aircraft aiming to intimidate Taiwan and punish its pro-independence stand. Taiwan has responded by mobilizing its forces to defend its freedom and democracy. So this is the crux. In this backdrop, let us discuss about South China Sea issue from the prelims perspective. From the map provided here, you can see the location of South China Sea. See, it is a sea located in the western part of Pacific Ocean, bordering the eastern part of Southeast Asia and southeastern parts of East Asia. Major countries located adjacent to South China Sea are Vietnam, China, Philippines, Brunei and Malaysia. So this is all about the location of South China Sea and the countries present adjacent to it. See, it is connected by Taiwan Strait with the East China Sea and by Luzon Strait with the Philippine Sea. This sea has strategic importance because it connects Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean through the Strait of Malacca, and nearly 1/3 of global shipping passes through it. Apart from this, large reserves of oil and natural gas have been discovered under the floor of South China Sea. Due to these reasons, the region remains a significant geopolitical water body. As you can see from the image, the pink-colored area of South China Sea, which is highlighted here, is claimed by China, citing historical reasons. But if you pay close attention, you can see that the area claimed by China nearly includes all of the territorial waters of countries like Vietnam and Philippines. This is where the problem arises. The reason for the dispute is many countries claim islands in South China Sea as their own territory. For example, the Parcel Islands are claimed by China, Taiwan and Vietnam. The Spratly Islands are claimed by China, Taiwan, Vietnam, Brunei and Philippines. And the Scarlberg Shoal is claimed by Philippines, China and Taiwan. On continuing our discussion, China calls the border of South China Sea the 9-dash line. The red color line which is displayed here is the 9-dash line according to China. China claims that areas within this 9-dash line are part of its own territory. This is a serious geopolitical and geoeconomic issue with ramifications across the globe. So Philippines had previously approached the Permanent Court of Arbitration (PCA) challenging the illegal claims of China in South China Sea. The Chinese claims were challenged by Philippines as they were in violation of the provisions of the United Nations Convention on Law of the Seas. After hearing both the sides, the PCA, that is Permanent Court of Arbitration, has ruled that China's claims of historical rights over the South China Sea have no legal basis. It also said that Beijing had no historical rights to resources present in this waters of South China Sea. But China dismissed the judgment altogether, and so the issue is still a flashpoint in the global politics. So this is all about the discussion. With this, let us move on to the next news article. Look at this article. A recent study on Ashtamudi Lake in Kerala reveals a significant microplastic pollution. The study conducted by the Department of Aquatic Biology and Fisheries, Kerala University, found that fish contained 19.6% and shellfish 40.9% of the microplastics. The microplastics included polymers like nylon, polyurethane and polyethylene, and hazardous heavy metals like molybdenum, iron and barium, posing risk to aquatic organisms and humans. The study calls for an urgent need to continuously monitor and take measures to address the potential public health concerns arising from the microplastic contamination. So this is the crux. In this backdrop, let us revise about microplastics and Ashtamudi Lake from the Prelims perspective. Firstly, with respect to microplastic, they are defined as synthetic solid particles sized from 1 mm to 5 mm, which are insoluble in water. The two major sources of microplastic includes commercial product development and breakdown of larger plastics. There are two categories of microplastics. One is primary and secondary. Primary microplastics are tiny particles designed for commercial use like cosmetics, microfibers shed from clothing and other textiles such as fishing nets, etc. Know that they enter our environment directly through any of the channels like the product use, unintentional loss from the spills during manufacturing or transportation, or abrasion during washing. Next, about secondary microplastics. They are particles that result from breakdown of larger plastic items like water bottles, etc. Know that this typically happens when larger plastics undergo weathering from wave action, wind abrasion, and ultraviolet radiation from sunlight. Now let us see the environmental impact of microplastics. See, microplastics are not biodegradable. Once released into the environment, primary and secondary microplastics accumulate and persist. They can be ingested by marine organisms, leading to potential harm to aquatic life and bioaccumulation along the food chain. They can also carry toxic chemicals and pollutants, posing additional risk to organisms and ecosystems. Secondly, let us discuss about Ashtamudi Lake. See, Ashtamudi Lake is located in the Kollam district of Kerala. It is the most visited backwater lake in the state. Know that it possesses a unique wetland ecosystem and a large palm-shaped water body, second only in size to Vemanad estuary ecosystem of the state. Moreover, Ashtamudi means 8 braids in the local Malayalam language. The lake is also called the gateway to the backwaters of Kerala and is well known for its houseboat and backwater resorts. On continuing our discussion, Ashtamudi wetland was included in the list of wetlands of international importance under Ramsar Convention. Lastly, note that in 2014, the Clam Governing Council of Ashtamudi Lake became the first marine stewardship council certified fishery in India for their sustainable clam fishing. So this is all about the discussion. With this, let us move on to the next news article. Look at this article. This opinion page article is an interview between two eminent persons who discuss the recent Supreme Court ruling. The ruling states that advocates cannot be held liable under the Consumer Protection Act 1986 for deficiency in services. Additionally, it suggests that the court's verdict in the Indian Medical Association versus VP Shanta case of 1995 should be revisited. In that particular 1995 judgment, the Apex Court stated that medical professionals should be held accountable under the Act. This means that the patient could seek compensation for medical negligence through consumer courts. So the recent ruling of the Supreme Court has sparked widespread debates whether to include medical professionals or not. So in this backdrop, let us learn about some important points from the article using our mains answer writing discussion. First, let me read out the question. Discuss whether medical professionals should be excluded from the Consumer Protection Act 1986 in the light of recent Supreme Court considerations. Evaluate the potential benefits and drawbacks of such exclusion. Since the question is around Consumer Protection Act, you can give a brief introduction about the Act. Then in the main body of the answer, you can first write about potential benefits of including the medical professionals, and then you can write about its drawbacks. So in conclusion part, you can give a balanced conclusion. So let's start writing. So in the introduction part, you can write like this. The Consumer Protection Act 1986 gives easy and fast compensation to consumer grievances. It safeguards and encourages consumers to speak against insufficiency and flaws in goods and services. So if traders and manufacturers practice any illegal trade, this act protects their rights as a consumer. The primary motivation of this forum is to bestow aid to both parties and eliminate lengthy lawsuits. Recently, the Supreme Court ruled that lawyers were not liable under the Act and reconsidered the inclusion of medical professionals under the ambit of the Act. Now, exclusion of medical professionals have both advantages and disadvantages. They are as follows. So this way you can give a link with the main body of the answer, then move on to the first part of the answer. Here you can write the potential benefits of exclusion of medical professionals. Firstly, it helps in reduction in defensive medicine. See, the medical professionals often engage in ordering unnecessary tests and procedures to protect themselves from potential litigation. excluding them from the CPA could reduce this practice, allowing doctors to make more rational and cost-effective medical decisions. Secondly, with the fear of litigation diminished, doctors may focus more on providing the best possible care rather than worrying about legal repercussions. This could potentially improve the quality of healthcare. Thirdly, the threat of litigation can discourage talented individuals from entering the medical profession or lead to early retirements. Excluding doctors from the Consumer Protection Act could make the profession more attractive and sustainable. Fourthly, when doctors are less fearful of lawsuits, they may build better relationship with the patients, fostering trust and open communication, which are essential for effective medical treatment. With these points, you can move on to the second part of the answer. Here you should write about the potential drawbacks of exclusion. Firstly, the Consumer Protection Act provides patients with a mechanism for redress in case of medical negligence. Excluding doctors from the Act could leave patients without an accessible and effective means to seek compensation for harm suffered due to medical errors. Secondly, legal accountability under the Consumer Protection Act helps maintain high standards of care in the medical profession. Excluding doctors from the Act might lead to complacency and a decline in these standards. Thirdly, the ability to hold medical professionals accountable through the Consumer Protection Act is crucial for maintaining public trust in the healthcare system. Removing this accountability might erode patients' confidence in the medical service. Fourthly, while the CPA provides a relatively quick and cost-effective route for patients to seek redress, excluding doctors might force patients to pursue lengthy and expensive litigation through regular courts. This could be less accessible to many individuals. So you can write these points in the second part of the answer. Now moving on to the conclusion part, here you can give some suggestions. Given the complexities of medical practices and the potential consequences of both inclusion and exclusion from the Consumer Protection Act, a balanced approach might be the most appropriate solution. So this could involve, firstly, establishing specialized tribunals with medical experts to adjudicate cases of alleged medical negligence. These tribunals could ensure that cases are assessed with a deep understanding of medical standards and practices. Secondly, developing and enforcing clear guidelines and protocols for medical practices. This is to reduce ambiguity and ensure that both the doctors and patients understand what constitutes acceptable standards of care. Thirdly, implementing mandatory insurance schemes for medical professionals to ensure that patients are compensated in case of proven negligence while protecting doctors from financial ruin. Fourthly, enhancing the training and continuous education of medical professionals to minimize errors and improve patient care standards, thereby reducing the incidence of negligence. So in conclusion, while excluding medical professionals from the Consumer Protection Act might alleviate some pressures on the doctors and potentially improve the patient's care, it also risks reducing accountability and patient rights. So a nuanced approach that addresses the concerns of both medical professionals and patients is essential for maintaining a fair and effective healthcare system is needed. So this way you can give a balanced answer. So that's all about mains answer writing practice. With this, let us move on to the next news article. Now let us see few other articles which were in news. Look at this article. 8 people were killed and over 50 injured in a boiler explosion at the Amudan Chemical Company in Dombivli, Maharashtra. It is about 40 km from Mumbai. The blast, which occurred due to a technical issue in the reactor, caused a fire and shattered nearby the windows. Firefighters, the National Disaster Response Force and doctors were deployed for the rescue operations. Some workers are still missing. Locals had previously demanded the relocation of such industries due to their proximity to residential areas. Chief Minister Eknath Shinde announced 5 lakh compensation for the families of the deceased and coverage of treatment costs for the injured. Next article. Here, leaders of Iran-allied militant groups including Hamas, Hezbollah, Yemen's Houthis, Iran and Iraq's Shia groups, they met in Tehran to discuss the situation in Gaza. They gathered on the sidelines of President Ibrahim Raisi's funeral and talked about the ongoing conflict in Gaza. The ongoing conflict in Gaza, the Al-Azhar flood operation, and the role of the resistance front. The meeting emphasized continuing their struggle until achieving complete victory for Palestinian resistance in Gaza. Other groups such as Palestinian Islamic Jihad and the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine also participated. Now we shall move on to the prelims practice question discussion. Look at this question. Consider the following statements related to microplastics. Microplastics are generally 5 cm thick. This statement is incorrect because microplastics are 5 mm thick. Next, they are the major pollutants of marine ecosystem. This statement is correct. Third, microplastics take 20 years to decompose due to its microstructure. This statement is incorrect because microplastics take 100 years to decompose. So here the correct answer is option A, 1 only. Next question, 9-dash line often seen in the news is related to which of the following? So as we discussed, the correct answer is option B, South China Sea. So with this, we come to the end of this news article discussion. If you like the video, do like, share and subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy. Now thank you so much for watching.